Whenever there is an invitation for transformation, whenever there is an invitation to level up, to up level, however you want to say it, to transform, you will have to face yourself. You will probably, most likely, 99.9% experience sabotage, rebellion, or resistance. And I want to call this out now, and I want to talk to you a little bit more about all of this because it really is an appetizer for what we will be focusing on in the winter escape. So you can think of this as like a little, like a nibble of what we will be covering. So let's talk about sabotage, resistance, and rebellion. So no matter how long you have been working in self-development, no matter how long you have been here in Escape from Emotional Eating, no matter how well you know yourself, everyone will experience sabotage, resistance, and rebellion for your entire life. Like, there's no way that we as human beings can never, ever, ever, ever experience sabotage, rebellion, or resistance ever again. Like, it is part of our human experience. It is part of the way that the mind works. And so first, to like lay it all out, is that no one is immune to sabotage, resistance, or rebellion. We all experience it, myself included. And a great story that I was actually telling about the other day as she was emailing me like, I can't get myself to make my escape room reservation. I was like, do I have a story for you? So it was about almost 2 months ago now, not even, maybe a month and a half, that I was about to attend a training retreat with my mentor. Now, I've been working with this mentor for over 6 years. I have attended over 20 something retreats with her. So this is not anything new. I pretty much know what to expect. And the retreats are not 4 days. For me, they're like 10. So it's a long time to be away from home and work. And we do it a couple times a year. And as I said, no one is immune to resistance, sabotage, or rebellion. So about 3 days before I was to leave on this retreat, I was literally having the conversation with Zach that I want to quit. I literally said those words. I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to go on this retreat. I don't want to. And if you know anything about me, those words of I want to quit are words that I pretty much never, ever, ever say. So it was a big red flag that, number one, that I was even thinking these thoughts. And then number two, that I was actually verbalizing them to Zach, to someone who knows me really well. Because once you verbalize it, it like becomes real. So I was having this experience and he was like, well, are you going to go? And I was like, yeah, I'm going to go, but I don't want to. And, I don't want to go. And so it took a lot out of me to like pack my bags and drive 5 hours and go where I needed to go. And I showed up. I showed up no matter what. And I will be honest, I showed up with a major chip on my shoulder and a big attitude. And I was still like, I don't want to be here. Like, I don't want to do this. But I did whatever it took to show up because I made a commitment. I made a commitment to myself. I've made a commitment to my own transformation. I've made a commitment to show up. And that I was absolutely going to follow through on. And lo and behold, the irony of sabotage, rebellion, and resistance is that the very thing that you're resisting is exactly what you need. So I was resisting this retreat, this 10-day retreat. And of course, when I brought myself to that retreat space, it was the most transformational experience that I have ever had in my 33 years on planet Earth. It literally blew my socks off. And it blew my socks off because it forced me to change. It forced me to say to myself, I am no longer willing to do X, Y, and Z. And I have to step up to the plate on A, B, and C. And I share this, number one, as the example of no matter how smart you are, no matter how educated you are, no matter how long you have been in the world of self-development, we are never immune to our own resistance, rebellion, and sabotage. But also number two, that when you are experiencing resistance, it is a sign that you are actually moving in the right direction. And for so many of us, we can feel the resistance and immediately go, whoa, and stop. We can immediately feel that sense of, I don't want to do this anymore, and actually let that feeling run the show. And my invitation in using this story as an example is to feel that feeling and push through it. To feel that feeling and go. To feel that feeling and say yes, to feel that feeling and make your reservation, to feel that feeling and go through it. The only way to get out of resistance and patterns of self-sabotage and rebellion is to actually take action. To take action in the direction of what you say you want. So for me, I am a person who is deeply committed to self-transformation and always moving from good to better and even better. And for me, staying home from that retreat just wasn't an option. It's just not in alignment with what I say I want. So even though part of me was kicking and screaming and was literally like internally going like this, I pushed through it. And because of that, I experienced so much and feel very deeply changed because of that experience. And that is my invitation to you. So if you are afraid of leaving your kids, if you are afraid of taking time off from work, if you are afraid of traveling in the winter, if you are afraid of being in an in-person experience with me, because you might be able to smell my breath, my invitation is that you show up anyway. Push through it. And there are a ton of moms in this room, in this community, that have attended multiple retreats where their children are under a year old sometimes, who have plenty of stories and resources about how you can set yourself up so that leaving your child does not feel like abandonment, but it actually feels like an honoring of you and your child or children. And there are plenty of us who work very high level, very high pressure jobs that have attended multiple retreats and have taken the time off and have returned to work better than before. And any other excuse that comes up, someone in this community has experienced it before and pushed right through. Because the peace and the freedom that comes from truly being free from your emotional eating and your internal demons is worth it. It is so worth pushing through whatever resistance or sabotage or uncomfortable feelings that you have. So do not be afraid of sabotage, resistance, or rebellion, because it is a sign you are on the right path. And the very thing that you are resisting is the very thing that you are actually meant to take action on. The very thing that you are afraid of is exactly the road that you are meant to walk. So reach out for support. Say yes. Trust that the universe will support you. Trust that this community will support you. Trust that I will support you. Haley will support you. That is what we are here to do. So keeping that in mind, the invitation and the questions that I want to leave you with are, what would happen if you could no longer hide behind your excuses? What would happen if you could no longer hide behind your excuses? What if you could no longer hide who you truly are? So what would happen in your day-to-day life if you no longer always gave the mantra of I'm so busy? What would be required? And it's simply an opportunity for curious compassion. It doesn't mean that you would just have to take it all on and, become even more overwhelmed. But actually what it means is that if you're no longer hiding behind, I'm so busy, what you're actually going to have to step into is using your voice. And using your voice to say yes to what serves you, to no to what doesn't, to creating what works for you, and letting go what is no longer serving you. So if we are no longer able to hide in the emotional eating cycle, if we are no longer able to hide behind our excuses, then what we will actually have to step into is taking responsibility for our life. We will actually have to take responsibility for what is happening. And for some, that can be really scary. I know, because I've been there. But one thing that I've learned about taking responsibility for our life experiences, for our body, for our health, is that it comes with a tremendous amount of freedom. Because then you get to choose. Freedom actually is the power of choice. Freedom doesn't mean that you sort of get to do whatever you want, but instead freedom is actually no, you actually just get an opportunity to say yes or no. Because to a victim, to someone who's in excuses, to someone who's in coping cycles, doesn't get the chance. They've already said no, no, no. But as someone who's taken responsibility, you get the opportunity to say yes or say no. And then because of that, you also have the opportunity to experience the results of that choice. And that could be more freedom or that could be more pain. But it's your choice.